There are moments in life that we experience ourselves, and then we watch our children experience them too, graduation being one of them, and it's quickly approaching. My next guest says there are things parents can do to make this milestone even more meaningful for their children. Host of KSL News Radio's Inside Sources, Boyd Matheson, is joining me to share how. It's great to see you.
Great to see you.
What do you remember about graduation? What stands out to you when you think about that time in your life?
You know, to me, it was not about anything that happened on the day. It wasn't anything about the event or the pomp or circumstances or the dinner after. It was a couple of hallway conversations with some teachers.
Yeah.
That was really everything in the end.
Funny, I go there too, to some interpersonal conversations, relationships that kind of mark that chapter.
Yeah.
We want our kids to relish in that as well. And you want us to start by simply remembering that endings matter. And we've talked about this, you've written about this, but we can't underscore it enough. Endings are important.
Endings are so important. And a lot of times we get into all of the process pieces of what's coming at the end in terms of all the graduation pieces, but really helping our kids to understand some intentionality in terms of the end, that it's not just, we know senioritis is a real thing and every parent's dealt with that, and let that play through, that's fine, but also take some moments to be very intentional in terms of what does that ending mean? What does that new beginning look like? What is the next season going to be? And having a different kind of discussion is an important piece of that.
I appreciate that reminder because I do think the wave of excitement takes over with everything that's happening in their lives right now, the rush. But to pause and say, no, this is an ending to something that's really important, and it will matter, and it does matter. You have three other ways we can make this milestone more meaningful for our children. First, you want us to help the graduate connect the dots.
Yeah, so everything they've done from the time they started kindergarten is very sequential. You pass tests, you get through semesters, you get to summer break, and you keep doing the drill until you get to the end. And often they aren't connecting all of those dots. And so some very intentional questions to our kids can be a big help. Take an accomplishment, an achievement, a project that they really felt good about, and ask them specifically about it. What were you thinking as you worked through that? How did it feel when you accomplished this or made that goal? And helping them see that there was process and learning there, even the hard stuff. Remember how difficult it was when this took place, or you lost that friend, or you had to move to a new school during your junior year. Have those kinds of conversations to just help them connect all the dots. There's a lot of things that happen in that period of school.
It's not just the end.
It's not just the end, but it is having those conversations and asking better questions because they'll actually gain more confidence and self-esteem by having a chance to share with you their thoughts about a performance or an experience than they'll ever get from just listening to our statements of praise.
Well said. Amen. There's power in interest, too. When you're showing that genuine interest, it heightens or elevates their experience and their emotions.
Yeah, and it actually, I think it's the most holy thing we give anybody is that full attention. And when you're asking those kind of questions to your kids, it's a very different conversation.
I agree. Remind your graduate about the importance of learning. In all of this, did you learn? There's an education to celebrate, too.
One of my favorite things, we were at a law school with a United States Senator and a soon-to-graduate person who just passed the bar, very full of himself, said, what's your advice for somebody who's as awesome, amazing, and wonderful as me? And the senator said, all of this preparation, all these years of study have prepared you to be a fantastic apprentice at a law firm. And it's at this lifelong learning. Churchill, at a graduation at Stanford University after the war, talked about the fall of these global political empires, military empires, and he very prophetically said the next empires will be the empires of the mind. And I think one of the most important things our kids should take away from their education is that learning how to learn, the discipline of learning, but learning to love learning. Is the big thing. Staying curious and realizing that if you want to be successful in any aspect of life, you got to keep learning.
So let's celebrate that as well. Finally, encourage your graduate to start their own Hall of Fame. What do you mean by this?
Yeah, so they've all had people who've impacted their lives. A teacher, a coach, an advisor, whoever it may be. And a lot of times they kind of get shoved along as we go through this graduation process and everyone's on to next. But asking them, who made a difference? Who was that teacher? And then don't just name it. Go see them. Go, of course, I have a wall of fame with baseballs, and so that's what I did. And went to those teachers, and I have my third grade teacher autograph on a baseball. And so it does a couple things for the graduate in terms of saying, wow, that teacher really did make a difference for me. They weren't just showing up to the classroom every day. They were very purposeful in what they were doing, and that made a difference in my life. It'll also make a big difference for that teacher or coach or mentor to realize that somebody did notice and do that. And so I think that's a very different conversation to have with your kids of who is it? Who's in your Hall of Fame? Who is it that really impacted you over the course of your education experience? And one, you'll be surprised at who some of those people are. may not be the people standing at the front of the classroom. It may be someone working in the lunchroom who had a big difference as well.
But I love the invitation, or the challenge more so, to honor them and celebrate them as part of this chapter close.
Yeah, it's so powerful. I actually remember one of my sons, when he was at the end of second grade, he came home on the last day of school, the ending, and he was just in tears. Yeah. And he was so sad because this one teacher was leaving the school and going to another school, and he was so sad. And so we talked about what he learned from this teacher. Yeah. And then we grabbed a baseball, we drove back to the school, and he had her sign the baseball.
That's fantastic.
Makes a difference.
Your legacy continues in so many ways, Boyd. We're better because of your words and wisdom. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
We can listen to your show when?
1 to 3 every day on KSL.
Thank you very much.